The first thing that we do is we help them map out, hey, what happens before that outcome happens? So before you close a big deal or land a new subscriber, what happens before? Who does that? Is that the sales team, the marketing team, and what is the activity? That alone is super helpful because now we simplify things with them.
Hi, and welcome back to Reflect Forward. I'm your host, Kerry Siggins, and I'm so glad you are here today. Today, my guest is Simon Severino, who is an author, a podcast host, a TEDx speaker, a Forbes contributor, and a triathlete. He is the author of Strategy Sprints, and he is all about helping his clients, us leaders, set up an operating system that allows you to move fast, to make sure that the team understands what success looks like and win. He is all about helping you supercharge your skills. I am looking forward to this interview, so hang tight and I'll be right back with Simon. All right, welcome back, everybody. I have my guest, Simon Severino. Simon, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone.
So, you are joining us from Austria. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and what you do.
22 years ago, I did fall in love with the problem of go-to-market. So how do you enter a market, stay in the market, stay defendable in the market? So if you're the winner, how do you stay winning? And if you're number two, number three, how do you become number one? I love this question so much because everything comes together. The numbers, the people, the psychology, the buyer psychology. And 22 years later, I'm still doing that every day. I help leaders take these decisions, how to enter a market, stay in the market. Technically, that's called go-to-market. So we talk sales, we talk marketing, and leadership is tough right now. I'm glad that I have the possibility to be there with leaders in the field because there's so much going on and so much uncertainty around. And my company is called Strategy Sprints, and we operate from Vienna, Austria. I have 3 kids. Yeah, this is who I am.
That's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about how you fell in love with strategy and uncertainty and helping businesses scale. Can you give us a little bit about maybe that foundational story?
Young man in a strategy advisory.
Yeah.
And I said yes to every project, of course. Yeah, let's go to Paris and help that team do this. Oh, and then we have to go to New York, do US market entry strategy for that company. Okay, I'm in, let's go. So I would go everywhere. And I quickly realized that some topics you get much more budget and much more attention. So for example, I had a retreat and then I said, oh guys, we are far away from the solution. So this was an automotive Fortune 500 and they were number 2 in their market. And we had no solution. After 4 days of sitting there, 42 people, their top 42 worldwide flew in from everywhere. And I don't have the solution. I said to the CEO, I think we need your 42 people 3 more days. And it was a Saturday. And usually when you ask that to a CEO of Fortune 500 company, that's not a comfortable question to ask.
No.
And so for 99% of the topic, you would just get irritation and then get fired for good reasons. But because it was about go-to-market, he said, Simon, no problem. They will stay 3 days longer and many more days if needed. I will accommodate everything because if I send them back to their countries right now without a strategy, what do they tell their people? And I realized, oh my God, this is the topic. This is my ikigai of what I'm passionate about and what actually other people need and what I can make a living with. And so this is why I fall in love with these particular things. You don't know the solution. Such a complex problem. The products are all great. How do you differentiate? If the products are all great, these were great cars, luxury cars. And so both companies are creating great products. What's the difference for the consumer? So we had to think differently, creatively, and find an answer to a question that's hard to answer and where we had no answers to. And that's what keeps me intellectually and emotionally going. That's why I did fall in love with this topic.
So go to market, it's so incredibly important. I run a manufacturing company. We make very disruptive products. So this is something we talk a lot about. And it's not easy. Why do you think coming up with a disruptive go-to-market strategy is so hard? And what do most leaders get wrong about it?
So if you don't have a strategy, that was the reason why he said, okay, you get 3 days more of my people. Because if you send them back into the field without a plan, what are they saying to their people? What's the direction? What's the game plan? What's the game we're playing and how are we going to win? Now, some people have a plan and think that's a strategy. So there is a difference between a plan and a strategy. A plan is a list of things. We have to do this, 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 this in that country with that product. That's not a strategy. It's easy and people default to that because it's comfortable. You don't get fired if you have a list. But if you're a leader, your job is to go one step into the risky assumption building. So my assumption is, and of course, I don't know because nobody knows the future, but it's my job as a leader to stand for something and I say, my assumption is the world needs this. My assumption is this is what we are the best at. My assumption is this is the game that we are going to win. And my assumption is this is how we are going to win in the next 90 days, 12 months. And so those are 4 assumptions. And of course, you don't know if they're true. So it's really uncomfortable to stand up, write them down, and stand behind them. And you can lose.
Yeah, I can understand why it's so much safer to come back with a plan because you haven't made those assumptions. You haven't put yourself out there to say, this is what I think is going to happen and take that risk. I'll share a little story with you. I actually just shared this in a keynote that I gave yesterday. I got some really tough feedback from my second in command several years ago, back in like 2017. And he was really frustrated with me. And we got into an argument. And he said, you think that you're just this disruptive CEO, but you're so far ahead of everybody. No one knows where you're going. The feedback was really tough to hear, but I appreciated it. I had this vision of what I thought our industry was going to be in the future and how we were going to drive to it. But I wasn't bringing people along. I wasn't connecting the dots for everyone. And I realized people are operating to a plan of we're going to do X, Y, Z this year, but they weren't connecting it to that bigger vision. After I got that feedback, I wrote down this document, what the future looks like. And we still use it today to make our assumptions about what we think the industry is going to look like and not just how we play a part in it, but how we are really the category leaders in it and driving the industry forward. So I can really appreciate that because I had a big wake up call about that and the importance of really tying that vision to the plan so that people understand, oh, that's the strategy. This is where we're going, even if we get part of it wrong. And part of what we do every year is we go through and we look at our assumptions and we write down what we got right, what we got wrong, what has changed, what has evolved, what are we going to do differently based on what we've learned. And it's such a fantastic exercise.
What's the direction and what do we do this week to move towards that direction?
Yes.
Those are the 2 questions. And because all the teams are like the situation that you just told, every team has this problem. That's why I developed the strategy sprints method to solve it. The book Strategy Sprints came out. It's now out there in 3 languages because that's the problem that every executive team has to solve. Every team in general. What's the direction and what do we do this week to move forward towards that? So there's a whole process called the focus card. On one page, the visionary CEO writes down that's the direction. It's on one page on purpose because it must be so simple that everybody on the team gets it and knows what their task is from Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
So there is the vision part, there is the 1 year part, there's the 90 days part. They write it then together. And every Monday we have a meeting. It's a short strategy meeting. And every Friday we have a little longer meeting where we review and learn from the week. Okay, did we move towards our vision slightly? Yes or no? Which of the activities contributed positively and had positive results? What's working? What's not working? And whatever is working, how can we do more of this? How can we double down on what's working? It sounds so simple, and it is not complicated. It's one spreadsheet. There's the strategy, and then there's a second tab with the weekly metrics. So, for example, if we say we are gonna help everybody have the music that they need when they work out. So let's say you're Spotify. Then the weekly metrics will be daily users, weekly users of playlist X. So there is a way to actually have your vision written down. Everybody knows it and you get excited by it. It's also a little bit of a stretch goal, but it's tough. Okay, but I take the challenge. That's the adventure that we are on. And then every Friday, okay, guys, what's actually working, what's not working? Let's talk about it. Oh, yeah, no, the sales script is terrible, Simon. Dude, you didn't call anybody for a whole week. Oh, okay, then I say the execution thing. Okay, the sales script is fine, but hey, Terry, you have to call more people.
Yeah.
So those are the conversations that you then have during the week that combine both the direction, the vision, but the actual execution.
Yeah, I like that because even though some of those might be lagging indicators of, okay, yes, how many new subscribers did we have? How many downloads did we have? How many listeners did we have? By tracking it on that weekly basis, you allow yourself to make an impact faster. If you start to see a dip or all of a sudden something skyrockets, you can really analyze what's going on. How do you work with leaders that maybe struggle to have that short of a feedback loop where maybe they don't know how successful they're being because it's something that takes a lot longer?
They usually don't know. Also, they usually don't know that they need a mix of lagging and leading indicators, that they need some input metrics and some output metrics. Because what happens before the actual daily user subscriber pops up? What is the activity that happens before? They usually don't have it written, they don't have it visualized. And so the first thing that we do is we help them map out, hey, what happens before that outcome happens? So before you close a big deal or land a new subscriber, what happens before? Who does that? Is that the sales team, the marketing team? And what is the activity? And then that alone is super helpful because now we simplify things with them because it's so complicated. When you're in the middle of it, you are fighting 100 little things. But then in this coaching situation, we look at the 20% that move the 80%. Everything gets kind of simple. We visualize it, we have it in front of us, it becomes the standard operating procedure, and they have breathing room again and they relax and go, okay, that's the part that works. Okay, let's make this the standard. Let's repeat this.
Mhm.
And then you relax because something's working. I can repeat this. And it's different feeling going into the weekend after this Friday meeting, knowing, okay, there are 3 things that are working. We will do them on repeat and build upon them, put more attention, more energy, more budget into them. And the rest that's not working, we're not gonna repeat that because we're not winning in that. So yes, most people don't know where are we actually winning, where aren't we winning, because they don't have that on one page and the weekly metrics. That exercise alone of the focus card. And by the way, people can download the focus card. It's open source. They can go to strategysprints.com, download the focus card and use it. That exercise alone helps focus, simplify, focus, identify what actually matters during my week. And also those meetings, Monday, everybody says their priority. Hi, I'm Simon. This is my priority. Okay, everybody. And if I say, hey, this is Simon, that's my priority, and maybe that's not the most important thing. Now I get real time feedback. Hey, Simon, yeah, we know that you love doing that, but is that the most important thing for our client and for our company right now? Ooh, you got me. It's true. It's the thing that I love doing, but it's not the most important thing for our clients nor our company right now. Okay, I reprioritize. This is my priority. So we can keep each other in the truth of what really matters, help each other stay focused. That's one part. And also simplifying the complex journey of a company.
So what do you mean by that? How does this whole process help simplify things? Because I think that's what people are looking for, right? And we're going to talk about uncertainty and complexity here in a few minutes, but I think it can feel overwhelming for people. So talk a little bit about how your process makes it simpler for people to understand what their priorities are. So when they speak up and someone says, no, that's not correct, they go, oh, yeah, you're right. It's not.
Yeah. So before the focus card, if you ask any team,
Mhm.
guys, are you winning or not? They don't have a clear answer. If you ask them, what's your strategy? You will have different answers. And if you say, what's your focus this week? You might get an answer. If you then ask the others, is he working on the most important thing for everybody this week? Maybe you get a different answer. So this
Mhm.
is pre-focus card. After the focus card, now on one page, they have the strategy, they have their own swim lane, and what's their priority. So a swim lane means I do my thing end to end without interruption. I don't have to ask anybody for a budget, for permission, for signing anything. That's a swim lane. If you're not clear, Then you have to stop after 5 minutes for $20,000. You have to ask somebody else. And then you create meetings instead of creating flow. So after a focus card, the simplification is one tab of that spreadsheet is the strategy, both long-term and this week. And the next tab is the weekly metrics. So every Friday, the current measurement of inputs and outputs. So what do I have to put in? Oh, I have to call 10 people a day. And what should come out? I should generate 3 meetings for the CEO every day. Okay. Now I have input, I have an output, they can be tracked. And on Friday, that's the simplification, right? I don't have to think about 100 things. I know, oh, okay, if I just have 3 hours today that are not in meetings, I will do this task. I will call 10 people. What is the outcome? Getting 3 meetings for the CEO. Okay, I can do that. It's simple. I'm focused. I do that first thing in the morning or as soon as I'm not in a meeting. And that simplifies my life.
And so is this system, does it go hand in hand with EOS or another operating system, or is it its own operating system? Because it sounds a lot like how you would set up rocks in EOS, or how we as Stone Age, we don't run EOS. We have our own Stone Age operating system, as we call it. And we have commitments, as what we call them. Is this something separate, or does this work into a current operating system that a business might be running?
Many teams are running on EOS before they start the focus card. They're very similar and there is a difference. The core difference is that EOS was built for the brick and mortar manufacturing company of the 90s, and it's perfect for them. It's all about organizational clarity and organizational structure, seats and roles. That wasn't agile enough, quick enough for the digital world.
Mhm.
So if you think of a digital agency, of a team that's building software, or they need much faster feedback loops than monthly. And for them, the focus card is much simpler, much more agile because it's not a fixed software. It's just a spreadsheet. So you
Yeah.
can quickly change a spreadsheet. You can make it your own. And the point is, how fast can you change something? Because let's say this week, the tariffs direction is left. But then on Tuesday next week, the direction will be right. How quickly can you change your goals accordingly? Because now the cost structure in the whole supply chain changes for you. So you have to do massive changes. Will it take you 10 minutes or 10 weeks? And that's why we use a spreadsheet, and that's why it's the focus card. It's much simpler because it should be easy to change on the go. You are flying a plane and you want to rebuild the plane while you're flying. You don't want to land a month later and then redo the strategy. It should be a real-time process. So that's the core difference.
I think that's a good segue into uncertainty, because you're right. Things are moving so quickly and changing rapidly. I feel that uncertainty all the time in my business. What do you do when you don't have enough data to make some of these decisions? When you don't necessarily have enough data to say, yes, this is my assumption. Here's how I'm supporting my assumption. And then here's the metrics that we're going to measure ourselves by. How do you advise leaders in this type of environment we're in right now?
So you never have enough data. Nobody has enough data. And we are always in this situation. We don't have enough data, but we need to decide. And also, as soon as we get maybe enough data, it can change quickly.
Mhm.
So I know, for example, my tariffs in my country right now, but I don't know if they change next week. So even if I have the data, I cannot count on that data to stay as it is. So we need something that monitors in real time. And we need to be built like Lego, not Duplo. So for people who don't have kids, the Lego is built in small parts. So if you have a horse in Lego, you can rebuild with using the same parts. You can build a house or a pool or a car from those parts. In Duplo, you can't. A horse stays a horse in Duplo because it's big parts. So we have to organize in very small parts so that we can recombine. For example, our work needs to become modular. So instead of building a whole car, you build the single parts and then you have an assembly process and mechanism. Same thing for knowledge. You don't go and deliver a training. You have 20 modules and you can recombine them to be different trainings. The modules are fixed, but you can quickly recombine them to be a completely new training in 2 hours because you have 24 modules in the back end ready, you can recombine them. That's the way we have to organize ourselves in a modular way so that we can quickly react, because there is no certainty. There is only a monitoring process and a process of adapting to things as they go. That's why every Monday and every Friday instead of monthly strategy, or there's some people that have quarterly strategy meetings.
Mm-hmm.
We do this every Monday and every Friday, because if you wait 90 days, everything changes much quicker.
Yeah, interesting. So, how do businesses who maybe haven't been thinking about how they can set up their business in this more modular way, because some are much more complex than, like your example of training, how do you advise people to start compartmentalizing or thinking about this in a new way if it is that much longer? Like our product development process can sometimes take 2 years because we're developing new things and there's so much field testing and there's the supply chain issues that you have and all that. It takes way longer than what you want. You can certainly break it into sprints, but it's hard to look at the overall project in this modular way. So maybe walk through how leaders can start to think about things in a different way that they maybe haven't considered before.
You just gave the answer. The big elephant, the big product, you slice it into many small parts, and that becomes weekly sprints. So 90 days is 12 sprints. You think about the function of the product. You can't always break it down into the parts,
Mhm.
but you can think about the function, and you start testing that function in week one already. You create a feedback loop where the person using the product will not wait 2 years before they get it in hand. They get it in their hands, and you start observing how they use it, even before it's ready. Even if it's a mock-up or a prototype, we get people to use it as quickly as possible so that we gather the initial direction validation. First, the need validation, the solution validation, the problem validation, the feature validation. These are all steps of validating things as early as possible. It's like the scientific method, but applied to a business team. And the other part is the weekly cadence, creating that weekly cadence, because now you can change direction. A project that you look at every month has now a high risk and a high probability also to be over budget over time, because something is not working, but you realize it 30 days later. And so you want to create a real-time loop, ideally with a focus card, or at least every Friday having a quick pit stop and check in and validating if it's actually getting better in the
Mhm.
right direction. Are people using it? Are we getting feedback? Because otherwise, you create huge risk of not knowing early enough and not being able to change direction quickly.
So, what happens when leaders say, "This is great, this all makes sense, but I don't have time to go implement a new system like this. I have to get my job done, and this feels a little overwhelming." How do you help them get through this process? Is it an overwhelming process to implement?
If it's overwhelming, don't do it. You shouldn't have another project on top of all the things that you have. So we are Jarvis to Iron Man. Iron Man is so busy. They are in action. They should be in action. They shouldn't be in meetings. They shouldn't think about strategy processes. That's not their job. Their job is to change the world. Our job is we have those things pre-built and we install them in the simplest possible way. That's why it's a spreadsheet, because it takes 2 minutes to install a spreadsheet and everybody is using spreadsheets already. So that's why it's a spreadsheet, because it's the simplest thing. It takes 10 minutes to implement. In the first week, they get it going. And later on, it takes them 10 minutes to change direction. So it
Mhm.
should be as simple as possible. It shouldn't take any time from you. And it should be part of your Monday, half an hour on a Monday and 45 minutes on a Friday. That's all it takes. And it's not an additional meeting. In most of the cases, it's actually less meetings because they have other kinds of meetings. So, no, it shouldn't create more stress. Actually, it should simplify, create clarity, and not take long to implement.
And so in your book, do you line out the whole process of how you would go and implement this from start to finish?
Yes, in the book, Strategy Sprints, there is a whole chapter on how to implement it and many other chapters on how to use it. And on our website, people can actually download it and implement it even without reading anything. It's so simple. It's one page is your strategy, next page is the weekly metrics. So you can directly grab it from strategysprints.com and use it.
I love it, how simple it is. All right, what about the results? So what kind of results have you seen, in your own businesses or your own clients with how they can turn sales around as they do implement strategy sprints?
So we had a marketing agency who is the biggest marketing agency in their country, and they were crushing it. They had all the big accounts. So if you are a big retail chain in that country, you give them $2 million and they run TV ads for you, and they're happy. It takes a year to build those ads, and then they run for 4 years, and everybody knows the ad and everybody's happy. But the team wasn't happy and said, Simon, we have to sprint. I said, why do you have to sprint? You're crushing it. Yeah, but we are getting this question. I give you $1. I don't know where the dollar goes. I don't know any clicks. Yeah, but we always did it like that. Yeah, but it's over. Now I'm getting more and more other agencies. They're a bit more agile. They tell me where the dollar goes. They can show me where the dollar goes. There was traditional marketing, TV, and then there was modern marketing now. And they said, Simon, we have to cannibalize ourselves before the competition does it. And so we had 90 days because that's what a strategy sprint cycle is. We had 12 weekly sprints. The first, we had to decide, okay, do we do this with the existing brand or do we create a new brand, a sub brand? We made it simple for them to go through the decision process. They decided, and the second day of the first week, they will start a sub brand, a new brand, because it's easier to build credibility with a new thing than to say the old brand is actually super modern. And so we did it, created that brand. Week 1, concept of the brand and all the branding and concept material. Week 2, okay, let's think about the ideal client, the list. How do we actually get the data and start conversations with those potential clients? And so week after week, we had to solve one problem. Around week 4, we landed the first client while we were still building the details. But that's how you do it. And so with the first client, they then got their first modules building. So whatever they were building for that client, they saved also as a module for the next client. After 2 months, they landed the second client. And so now in terms of ROI, after 90 days, they had a new brand, a new website, and 16 modules ready to deliver. And they had 2 clients, which made around $300,000. So that's what they were able to create in 90 days using this simple method, because they broke down the big task into weekly small tasks.
Great example. Thank you. So, as we start to close up this show, what is the one thing that you wish leaders understood about strategy? What's your greatest nugget of wisdom for us?
It is that you have to invalidate it every week. What is invalidation? So you did write down your assumption.
Mhm.
Now try to invalidate it every week. And so kick it. Show me that we're actually going into that direction at the right pace. That's the Friday conversation. On Friday, we criticize our own activities. We look at them. So don't go for validation. Yeah, I know this is the best and we will win. No. Show me that we are winning. And so that is invalidation. You go for actually invalidating it. And if you can't, now you're winning.
I love it. Don't drink your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
That's great advice. All right, my final question for you. The name of this podcast is Reflect Forward. In this context of strategy and uncertainty, what does Reflect Forward mean to you?
It's funny because we don't know what's forward, and I don't even know physically if there is a future. There is probably just a now, right? But in this now, we have decisions to make. We have to think about the costs of those decisions in the future. And so that happens now because I'm deciding now. So what I'm fascinated about is I don't care about the future. I don't care about the past. I'm always in the now, but I have to decide now, and this will have effects on the future. And so I have to always think about the risk of my decision. What's the probability? What are the odds that it works? And that fascinates me. Not knowing, but still having to bet. We have to bet on this future. And by betting, we are actually creating that future. But what are the risks? And are the risks reversible, irreversible? Can we afford the risk? Do we have to afford the risk? Are these risks we can afford not to take? Are these risks we cannot afford not to take? So it's the probability of success and creating those conditions that you take decisions. It is risky, but you create also the conditions that the odds are high that you can actually win.
Great answer. I love that. And I love you bringing it to the now because you're right. We cannot project outcomes. We want to tell ourselves stories about it, but we don't know how things are going to unfold. I really appreciate your answer. No one has answered it like that. So thank you. How can people find you?
We hang out at strategysprints.com. This is also where you can download the tools we talked about. And there is many more tools there about decision making, leading, sales, marketing. Yeah, you can find us at strategysprints.com.
Fantastic. And I know that you do a lot on LinkedIn as well. So you're constantly dropping nuggets of wisdom on LinkedIn. So I'll be sure to include your LinkedIn profile as well.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Simon, thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking strategy with me. This was really interesting. And I'm sure our listeners got all kinds of great tips. And I'm definitely going to go download the focus sheet and do that exercise and see what I come up with. And if it's different than what my future looks like document, I'm going to go test my thinking. So I appreciate that.
Cool.
All right. Hang tight, everyone. I'll be right back. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Very interesting. I can't wait to go do the exercise and see what I find out about how I line out my strategy. I hope you do the same. All right, with that, I will leave you for your day. I hope you have a great one. If you liked this episode and know of a leader who could benefit from it, please feel free to share it with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to it on your favorite podcast platform on YouTube or like it and share it with a friend and leave a comment or a review. I always appreciate it. It helps with the algorithms. Take care. Have a great day.